Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Looking forward to going over our topic today, which is on overall lung function and how to improve it. So this topic came about because a good friend of mine and also colleague was interested in how they can improve the health of one of their loved ones in terms of lung-based function. So instead of just doing a private consult, which of course I would have been happy to do, what I wanted to do was actually record my answer right here. Now remember, with all podcasts, we are not looking to treat or diagnose or cure any disease. What we do here at the Cabral Concept and in my private practice that I've had the fortune of working with many hundreds of thousands of people over the years is to simply share with you the underlying root causes of what's going on, and also natural-based modalities and protocols that you can use to work on the imbalances as well as the toxicities. So we don't treat any disease, but again, if you know what conventional medicine does, they look to mask the symptoms. It's not something that we're interested in doing. Masking symptoms is a form of treating the disease. However, the disease then never goes away. So meaning that if you have COPD or you have rheumatoid arthritis or you have Hashimoto's, it never ends because you're simply masking the symptoms that would cause the immune system to go after whatever it might be happening. But what we look to do is say, why is the immune system so turned on? What's going on inside of the body? And if there hasn't been a permanent change in the physiological structure of the body, well, then I'm hoping that we can return that body back to a healthy and normal state. Or at the very least, do our best to balance inflammation, just like we spoke about, and hopefully you tuned into that show as well, on episode 1566, the 21 most common causes of inflammation. That's very important for a show like this, because when you're talking about lung-based dis-ease, what you're really talking about is inflammation and what caused it in the first place. So definitely check out that show. What I'm going to do today, though, is I'm going to kind of use chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, or lung-based poor lung function as an umbrella for emphysema, for bronchitis, for congestion in the lungs, mucus production in the lungs, poor aerobic-based capacity in terms of lung capacity, all of those things. Because, again, we're not looking at a specific disease-based state. There's amazing pulmonologists out there. There's amazing specialists that can help you with acute-based care. And you should get that. So I'm not saying to come off your oxygen. I'm not saying any of those particular things. That, of course, would be reckless. We don't want to do that. We're never saying come off your medications. What we're saying is let's look at, over a period of weeks to months, can we begin to help the body function better on its own by bringing it back to a state of equilibrium? That's the goal, right? So let's look at that. Well, and again, I don't want to make this specifically about one particular lung-based disease, but there's usually 4 stages of lung-based disease or weakening of the lungs. And there's a mild, there's a moderate, there's severe, and then there's very severe. Once you get to the severe stage, you know it. You're diagnosed with something like emphysema, chronic bronchitis, COPD, etc. And you're starting maybe to move towards oxygen-based therapies and other medications. And then, of course, the severe-based state would be not a whole lot of moving around. Oxygen levels are quite low, and a lot of scary times when the body drops too low in oxygen. So you might be someone with just a lot of mucus production in the lungs, maybe some asthma, maybe prone to bronchitis, pneumonia, etc. What we want to look at are first the symptoms that you should know about, whether you're suffering from this or not. And again, not every show is going to be directly about you. I encourage you to listen to as many shows as you can of the Cabral Concept, and the reason is you can then pass this information on to someone who's suffering from this. And there are millions and millions of people suffering from these particular dis-eases of the body every day. So accumulate the knowledge, know what to do if it ever happens to you, but also share the knowledge with others. That's really what this is all about. We have to be a global community dedicated to taking control of our own health. It's the only way. It is the only way to keep ourselves well and to stay well. Okay, so symptoms that you should look for. Any type of chest tightness or kind of a chronic cough, or you're trying to always clear your throat or clear mucus out of the lungs, frequent infections of the lungs. Really important to look at that, especially if like every winter you end up with bronchitis or you end up with pneumonia. Very, very important. And then we'll go into how the immune system, of course, plays into all of this. Fatigue, a lot of phlegm production, as I mentioned before, especially when you first wake up in the morning, or if you get a cough at night when you lie down. Dealing with wheezing, that's another big one too. And again, that's start moving towards the more severe stages, but that and then fatigue always goes along with this typically, because lower oxygen states, well, that's going to lead to a lot more fatigue. And remember, if you can't get enough oxygen in, if you have inflamed lungs and the cells of the lungs and the tissues of the lungs, well, you're not going to be able to oxygenate then your blood, right? And those red blood cells. Really, really important to look at this. So let's first talk about why any of this would happen in the first place. Okay, so the first and foremost is smoking. It's vaping or cigarettes. It's breathing any type of smoke into your lungs. You cannot do that. It's the biggest offender that I could think about. Alcohol is not good for the body. But if you did a little bit of alcohol, just a couple nights a week, you'd be okay most likely. But smoking, you're putting yourself at risk. You really are. You're dramatically increasing your chances for cancer, heart disease, stroke, diabetes, many other issues. If you smoke, you are going to most likely live 10 years, 15 years, maybe even less of a life, meaning in terms of lifespan. So first things first, I have to just mention the majority of people will be smokers. We have to make sure that we are helping people to quit smoking. It's the number one thing you could do. But other people end up with all sorts of lung-based issues that aren't smokers. Now, secondhand smoke can be an issue. If secondhand smoke is an issue, well, we need to remove ourselves from spaces where we might be affected with secondhand smoke. Okay, besides smoke, let's go over what all the different possibilities are. The first one is this, and not a lot of people talk about this, but it's actually yeast and fungal overgrowth and mold that can affect the lungs. So I can't recommend enough testing for mold, testing for yeast and fungal-based overgrowth. There's two labs you can do that with. One's called the Candida Metabolic and Vitamins Test, and the other is the mold test. You can find them at equilibriumnutrition.com, and if you'd rather run them through your local functional medicine doctor or integrative health practitioner, that's great too. But know that you can actually test for these things. There's something called fungal-based pneumonia that not a lot of people have been told about, that it affects people every day until you get rid of that mold toxin in the body, the mycotoxins, as well as yeast and fungal-based overgrowth. Really important. Okay, really, really important. But besides that, it can be a parasitic-based infection. And again, you can run a bacteria and parasite stool test to look for parasites. It could be a virus and it could be bacteria. There are many people with viral-based issues. And of course, the main virus that we're talking about right now and that I've spoke about over the past couple weeks that can cause issues. So there's no doubt about that. But, we can also talk about chronic viral issues that really wear people down and affect their lungs. One of the reasons why it affects their lungs is because it really drains the body of energy. And there's a big tie in all forms of medicine, except conventional medicine, of the adrenal function and the lungs. It's one of the amazing reasons why, just one of the reasons why, and I'll get to it towards the end, why licorice root is so great for breathing in for the lungs. One of the reasons why, it helps the adrenals. It really does. It helps the HPA axis. I'll talk about that in a moment. But it also is a proven destroyer of viruses, right? So again, we have to begin to use the best of state-of-the-art medicine, which are these really nice at-home lab tests, and combine that with the best of ancient-based wisdom. Okay, so we went over pathogens. The next one is being overweight. I don't want to sound insensitive when I say that, because I've worked my whole life. I mean, really, since I was 18 years old in the health and fitness industry. And I started out with nutrition and then personal training and then strength and conditioning, etc. Helping people to get in great shape. Like that was my goal. That's what I did first because it changes lives. And if you didn't listen to that podcast, please go back. Check out, and I just did this, it's my entire methodology of how I practice and how it was developed. That was episode 1567, okay? I will figure out the actual show number of this show in just a moment because this is kind of a pop-up show that I wanted to record this for someone in my office and pass along to you as well. Okay, so we have to get people to a healthy body weight. We have to, okay? If you're further than 10 to 15 pounds away from your healthy body weight, let us help you lose the weight. Let your local personal trainer nutritionist help you lose the weight. Somebody needs to be your coach, or you need to follow a program to lose that weight and keep it off. It's one of the greatest things you could do for yourself, for your energy, for your longevity, for your vitality, for your zest for life, your endurance, your stamina. Everything gets better when you're closer to a healthy body weight. It's just less of a struggle in life. That's the way that it is. Imagine putting on a 30-pound weight vest right now. Now imagine a 50-pound weight vest. How much more difficult would life be, everyday actions? Of course it would. And lung function wouldn't be as good either because you're carrying around an extra 30 to 50 pounds. Especially when you lie down at night, that compression does not work well with the lungs. Really, really important to look at this. Okay, the next one is toxins and chemicals. I wanted to share this with you. This is really important. Heavy metals is a big one. Mercury, aluminum, lead, then we have arsenic, we've got cadmium, but also pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, all of those things are big. But there's even greater ones. And let me see if I can find the study specifically for you. In 2015, there was a study. Yes, it was only 167 participants, but they all had COPD. This was a very defined population. More than 60% of the participants reported cleaning supplies as a trigger for COPD symptoms. More than half of the participants reported trouble after being exposed to perfumes, scented candles, or insect spray. Just keep in mind, there are these invisible toxins that we don't like to talk about, that the media tends to make fun of, that affect our overall health. And if you're already immunocompromised, if you already have multiple chemical sensitivities, if you already are inflamed, these chemicals cause greater harm to the body, especially when you just breathe them in. They go right to the lungs, and that causes inflammation in the lungs. Even if you are healthy, I implore you to stay away from all of these chemical-based scents. Use organic cleaners. Use, natural-based scents, natural-based essential oil diffusers. And I'll give you the essential oil that you should be using with lung issues in just a moment. So I'm going to give you I have to come up with a number for the show right now. So we are going to make this episode 1579. All right. So today's show is StephenCabral.com/1579. And I'm going to bump my show, which was on fats and cancer. I'll bring that to next week. Okay. So really important is watch out for these things. And while I'm at it, I'm going to share one more study with you. This was really interesting. For people with COPD, for people with lung-based issues, room temperature actually made a huge difference. This was a 2016 study at Johns Hopkins University, and there was negative effects with higher air temperatures that lasted for more than 48 hours. So that means let's keep the house a little bit cooler, not too cool, but a little bit cooler. Stay out of the high humidity and the heat outside, and that's going to help, especially during your acute-based phases. All right, I wanted to mention that as well. Another one I'm going to talk to you about is autonomic nervous system imbalances. What is that? Higher levels of stress, higher levels of fight or flight, and overall exhaustion of the body. We'll talk about how to work with that in just a minute. Hormonal imbalances, which again, if you ran a called stress hormones, mood and metabolism test, you could look at thyroid function, you could look at your vitamin D, you could look at your blood sugar balance, you could look at your DHEA, which is a huge one with me. If your DHEA levels are below a 6 on this particular lab, you need to boost those. You really do. Because a healthy immune system needs a strong level of DHEA. DHEA is one of the most overlooked hormones in the body. It's actually called a prohormone. It's a hormone in and of itself, but it has unbelievable properties to it. So it's dihydroepiandrosterone. It's a precursor to testosterone. But really, it's a mediator for cortisol. It's a balancer of cortisol and just has, again, dynamic properties for your immune system. So really important that you do make sure that your levels are strong on DHEA. Okay, a big one is this. Too many endotoxins entering the body from too high of a fatty meal, that's one, too much gut bacterial overgrowth, or too much food at any one meal, which would exhaust the body. All of these things could lead to excessive mucus production, especially food sensitivities, okay? So again, these are all part of our Big 5 labs. I know not everybody's going to be able to run that, but I can't recommend them enough. Food sensitivities are hidden triggers for inflammation. Inflammation, in this particular case, with someone that's susceptible to it, will go towards their lungs. Remember, you don't get to choose where the inflammation goes. Sure, you might have some inflammation in your gut, but if you're someone predisposed to rheumatoid arthritis, it's going to go to your joints, maybe your fingers. If you have Hashimoto's, it's going to go to your thyroid. If you have MS, it's going to go to that myelin sheath. If you have fibromyalgia, it's going to go to your trigger spots for the muscles and fascia and connective tissue. It's just going to go to wherever you're genetically susceptible. But again, the genetic susceptibility is there, but it was triggered by something, and in this case, a food sensitivity. The next one is this, and I kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier, but emotional stress. Anyone that's more stressed is going to be more immunocompromised, produce more cortisol, trigger the response of more insulin, and the lowering of certain immune cells. Natural killer cells is just one, but also a triggering effect in more inflammation in the body and inflammatory cytokines, which in this case may attack the lung tissue. So these are things to look for, okay? If you haven't looked at toxins and chemicals and pathogens such as fungus and parasites and viruses, you have to look at those. If you haven't looked at DHEA and the HPA axis, look at that. If someone's overweight, help them to lose the weight, especially if you're the caretaker, right? Check for medications like Tylenol. That could be exacerbatory components of this, like super, super important. Hormonal balance, we talked about food sensitivities, an excess of higher fat meals, just the emotional-based state, right? As we look through that de-stress protocol, so important. The diet, the exercise, the stress reduction, the toxin removal, the rest, the emotional balance, the supplement protocols proven to work by science, and success mindset. Well, it just so happens that's what I want to take you through here today. So I'm going to take you through my de-stress protocol. Remember, I give everything away for free as much as I can, and today is episode 1579. That means for the past 1,579 shows, all of the information, again, you can search any topic you want at stephencabral.com/podcast. So my goal is to give you that first step, but also actionable. I wrote a book called The Rain Barrel Effect. It's as close to free as I can make it. 100% of all profits go to charity. And I want you to use this information and try to implement it. You don't have to be perfect. The more you do it, the more it starts to compound. Once you're able to handle one thing, well, then you can add on the next. And that's why at the end of every chapter in the de-stress protocol, it just gives you one more thing to do. That's it. Oh, okay. You don't, want to do all these big detoxes. Understood. I get it. Start with maybe just doing some dry brushing. Start with maybe doing a little bit of sauna. And for someone with COPD, although you have to be careful, you might want to look at some of these detox-based protocols. And that is because if they're dealing with multiple chemical sensitivities, if they're dealing with mold, if they're dealing with all of these issues, they may need help opening up those liver pathways. Again, if you have a diagnosed disease, you should be working with your PCP as well. But a functional medicine detox might be quite remarkable. Now, again, if you're very sick, you probably won't want to do the first 2 fasting days. Probably too strong for your body. It's not that it wouldn't be helpful, but it may be too strong. So what do? Well, you start with days 3 through 7. You start with the shake and the detox capsules. You do the plant-based lunch. You do a shake mid-afternoon. And then you do your paleo-style dinner at night with your detox-based capsules. Okay, maybe you're not ready for that. Okay, well, what if we started with a smoothie for breakfast? What if we started to just do a 12-hour overnight intermittent fast? What if we did a once a week 24-hour fast to allow the body to start to improve on its own? Although I do recommend some supplementation. The reason is that if you're already this far, you need to support that liver. I mean, you really do. And that just simply means giving yourself all of those B vitamins. It could be as simple as using a daily activated multivitamin. It could be the daily nutritional support powder that we recommend for people. But it has to be something, because if you don't give your body the support, how is it supposed to keep up on its own? It's already telling you by these symptoms it's overwhelmed. And you think that it's just going to be able to do it on its own? It's just going to say, okay, yeah, we won't eat anything. We'll just detox on our own. If it could do that, it would have done that. It can. Just give it a little bit of support. Replace those deficiencies. Help it to remove its toxicities. So functional medicine detox in any capacity that you're able to. You can definitely check out all my previous podcasts on how to do functional medicine detoxes. And then also, after you're done with that, or maybe even the beginning, establish a baseline nutrition. Really, establish an anti-inflammatory nutrition plan. Check out my podcast on the foundation of all diets. Check out my podcast on the Mediterranean diet. Check out eating 7 to 9 servings of fruits and veggies every day. Like, follow all of those shows. And the latest one I did, let me just see if I can find it for you. It's 1551. It's called A Day in the Life of My Mediterranean Diet. You don't need to copy what I do, but everything that I do is based on sound research. I'm not perfect in a day. I'm not perfect. Well, I can be perfect in a day, but it won't be perfect over a week. And that's okay. You don't need to be. What you need to do, though, is follow a good plan, and you start to realize which foods react better with your body. You might not do well with nightshade vegetables. Might not do well with eating like seeded-based fruits, those types of things. But you do well with these, and you do well with these. Well, you start to learn those things as you begin to move through the process. So really, really important. Anti-inflammatory, good, healthy, nutrition-based foods, super, super important. What I would also say is this, that start to reduce stress. What are the major stressors? Pick one. How can you begin to reduce that one? Begin a meditation practice, or just listen to binaural beats, or just listen on YouTube to Tibetan singing bowls. Listen anything to get you in better heart wave coherence, heart and brain wave coherence. It improves heart rate variability, it improves your immune system, and it allows you to then naturally balance healthy levels of inflammation. So important. As we start, that works for emotional balance, all of these different things. Let's talk, though, about good quality nutritional supplements that have been proven to work. And there's a few that you really want to look into. Hot tea, hot ginger tea, and add a little bit, we'll add squeezed lemon and add some Manuka honey. Try to do that every morning upon waking. You can do it between meals, with meals, before bed. Try to do it 2 to 3 times per day. 2 to 3 times per day, hot tea. And if you don't have ginger tea, or if it doesn't react well with you, just use lemon and a little bit of Manuka honey. You could add a little bit of raw apple cider vinegar in that if you want as well. It's up to you. But do the lemon and Manuka honey, ideally with ginger tea. Amazing for loosening mucus-based production. And so many people as they get older are also dehydrated. You need fluid in order to loosen mucosal-based secretions. Get hydrated. Half your body in ounces of water per day. If you're not used to drinking water, you can't just start drinking 3 liters of water a day. Work up to it. Put some electrolytes in it. Put a little bit of lemon in that water. Put a little bit of sea salt in that water. It'll be remarkable for what it starts to do to loosen those mucus-based secretions. Another one is licorice root. I spoke about this before. You can get it as a syrup. You can get it as it's an old Native American bronchial-based syrup. I will try to link all these up for you today. You can get licorice root in a product that I've recommended before. One is called Lung Claire that contains mullein extract, but also the other one is maybe Claire Lungs. I'll try to link those up for you as well. They've been sold out due to this virus, but again, straight licorice root will work as well. Licorice root-based syrups will work. You can often get them with elderberry, but it is a powerful plant-based medicine, and that's a huge one. Again, if you have any diagnosed diseases, you should work with your PCP. And whenever you start any of these supplements, you should do one at a time, and you should ease them in dose by dose. Just start with a little bit, see how the body reacts. And every 3 days, if there's no reaction, you can begin to increase the dose, or you can simply add in that next nutritional supplement. Ginseng is another one proven to work. And again, you can look all these up on your own too. My goal in about 22 minutes, I'm already over my time today, but my goal in a 22-minute podcast is to get you started, right? Is to teach you things such as the amla berries or the Indian gooseberry that you start to see is like, okay, these things are beneficial. Why? Well, they're higher in vitamin C. So anybody with lung-based issues should be taking in more vitamin C. They can use alkalizing vitamin C. They can use the full spectrum vitamin C, which is great. They can use something called Hist Pro, which contains quercetin in it, because quercetin can be great for the lungs as well as a natural a natural healthy levels of inflammation balancer. N-acetylcysteine, another big one, right? NAC, I'm a huge fan of that. Yes, I like liposomal glutathione as well, or reduced glutathione. Cetria is another one of those nice branded forms of that. But N-acetylcysteine, I prefer to use that. And the reason is that it can make glutathione if it chooses to. N-acetylcysteine can work on its own. N-acetylcysteine helps break up mucus-based conjunction. I've done a whole show on NAC before. Check out that show for dosages between 600 and 1,200 milligrams per day. Some people can go higher, but again, you have to be working with a practitioner. Mullein extract, M-U-L-L-E-I-N. It is one of the unsung heroes for lung-based congestion. Can't recommend enough. Reishi mushroom has been shown in some good clinical research to help balance, again, healthy levels of lung-based inflammation. Turmeric, a perennial favorite, along with garlic and ginger. That's why there's a product that I do recommend and have recommended for some time called Fire Cider or Fire Tonic. And you can even just do that with turmeric, and you can do a little shot of it if you'd like, or you can mix it with water. Those things are absolutely fantastic. Calcium, magnesium. The body needs calcium and magnesium. Calcium and magnesium are going to help the adrenals. They're going to help the nervous system. Super, super important. Okay, so those are my heavy hitters in terms of herbs. Again, I will try to link them up for you today at StephenCabral.com/1579. Okay, now just a couple more things. Essential oils. Okay, you can use many different essential oils on the body, but here's what I'd like you to do. Lung-based issues, I learned this over when I was over in India. We used to actually just boil water and we would put in fresh eucalyptus. And then we would put a towel over the person's head and they would just breathe that in for 10 minutes to 15 minutes. That's it. That's what they did twice a day. So absolutely remarkable. Now, there's a danger to that because what if someone passes out? What if they fall in the hot water? We did a lot of things in India that would not be allowed here in the United States. Now, again, it's not that they weren't efficacious, they were, but some of them were a little bit more dangerous than we would allow. So what I recommend is you can simply buy an essential oil diffuser. In the future, I'm going to have a nice resource page that's just stevencabral.com/resources. We're building it right now, but we'll do our best to link them all up here today. But you can go back to my previous podcast on essential oil diffuser and then just get a nice, good, clean, organic, if possible, eucalyptus essential oil. And then diffuse that essential oil throughout the house, or at least through the room that you are sitting in, and breathe in that eucalyptus. So great for the lungs. There are these salt caves that you can actually go into, and they make them now that you can breathe in all that great air from natural salt crystals, but also they have eucalyptus-based rooms that you can breathe in the eucalyptus, and that's absolutely fantastic. Okay, so that's what I recommend for everybody with these particular issues. Again, not as a treatment, not as a cure, but working on some underlying issues, and of course, figure out what they are, gut-based issues, stress-based issues, etc. But we do things in the meantime. And then also, we want to look at advanced therapies. And I can't go through these with you today, and I can't even make the recommendations because they're not right for everyone, and some of them can be dangerous, okay? So hydrogen peroxide inhalation for certain types of lung issues. Basically, what you're doing is you are purchasing either a nasal sprayer that you're going to breathe in the hydrogen peroxide, or a nebulizer, or what's called an ultrasonic humidifier, and you're breathing it in for it depends on the methodology that you're using, but if you're using a humidifier, using it 3 times a day or so, you can do it 4 times a day if you'd like, and for about 10 minutes, you're going to breathe in either hydrogen peroxide. Again, I can't make this recommendation for you because you can absolutely overdo this and cause oxidative damage in the body. So I'm just giving you, this is a possibility, but you would have to work with someone who knew how to do this. Another one, far less of a possibility of anything going wrong, would be colloidal silver. You know I'm an advocate of colloidal silver. You know I'm an advocate that it works, not for long-term use, but we can use this in the short term. And again, you can use this in a humidifier or nebulizer, and you can use 5 mLs of colloidal silver, just a teaspoon, in the reservoir, and use the nebulizer every couple hours or every 3 hours to 4 hours or so. You can use it that way. You could put 2 ounces of colloidal silver in the ultrasonic humidifier, and you could simply breathe that in. You can use other types of humidifiers as well. It just has to have and I'm not giving that like my A+. I'm just saying that's one that you can use. So those are 2 different things to get it directly into the lungs to help the tissues themselves. I wouldn't say for long-term use, but for certainly a couple weeks, you could do that, a few weeks. And then there's also stem cell. And what you would have to do is you have to find a clinic that specializes in this. But stem cells can actually help with regenerative-based issues. They're antimicrobial, and they help with balancing inflammation in the actual lungs. So I recommend if you want to go on the more advanced side after trying the things before that, well, you can certainly do that. And I just gave you the different things to look into. So hopefully this has been helpful today. I think I tried to do a deep dive for you, but of course, we're always happy to help. And again, for links, head on over to stevencabral.com/1579. If this was helpful, as always, please do feel free to share the show with anyone you believe it could serve. Before you go, I wanted to ask you this question. What if I could teach you in just a couple of hours how to transform your thyroid, hormones, adrenal, cholesterol, blood pressure, blood sugar, weight loss, energy, mood, brain, pregnancy, anti-aging, or many other health-related issues? After 20 years in private practice, after seeing and overseeing 250,000 client appointments, I sincerely feel I have the real-world data and have found the answer you've been searching for. So what I've done is spent hundreds of hours of my own time refining what you need to know in order to uncover your underlying root cause health issues and then begin to rebalance the body and bring it back to a state of robust health and wellness. I'm going to teach you exactly what I do in my private practice so you can understand how you got here and now what you need to do in order to heal. You'll receive all of the important success checklists, protocols, and even ways to customize it to make the program fit your busy life. And you'll get all of this at a fraction of the price. Let me save you the time, money, energy, stress, and frustration of not knowing what to do next. Instead of reading dozens of books on the topic and seeing multiple practitioners, I will condense everything that you need to know in just a few hours of video tutorials that you can watch and listen to anywhere. Together, we will make this healing process an enjoyable one that you can take with you for the rest of your life. I wish you all of the best of health and happiness, and I hope to be able to guide you on your healing journey through my Health Results Accelerators. Simply choose the health imbalance you're currently suffering from, and by the end of today, you'll know what went wrong and how to get well again. I guarantee it. For details, head over now to stevencabral.com/courses.